Hi, this is Joseph Phillips. One of the concepts you'll need to know for your PMP exam is the project life cycle. In this presentation, we're going to take a look at the details of the project life cycle. The project life cycle describes the duration of the project. It's the characteristics and the uniqueness of the project. So it's unique to each project that you manage. Even though you may have similar projects, the life cycle describes the uniqueness of the project you're currently managing from the start of the project to the end of the project. Most projects are comprised of phases, and so it's sometimes said that the project life cycle describes the phases of the project. Now, this is important when you consider different types of projects, like a construction project versus an IT project. So where in construction you may have a concept to design, the drawings, the bid, the construction, and so on. You would not have those same phases in an IT project. Now, some PMs get confused with the idea of the project life cycle or the project management life cycle. The project life cycle is what we're talking about here. It's the uniqueness of your project. The project management life cycle, that describes the initiating, the planning, the executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. And that's the project management life cycle that's universal to all projects. Let's talk more about project phases. A phase typically results in some key deliverable. So in construction you might say, we have reached a milestone at the end of the phase of pouring the foundation. Or we've reached a milestone at the end of the phase of doing the framing. So phases are typically, they describe the work that's being done in that phase. And then oftentimes we say that a milestone comes at the end of that phase. So the sum of all of these phases is what gives us the idea of the project life cycle. Now, one concept you'll need to know with time and influence on your project. Let's look at the axis over on the left, at the y-axis, where it says the degree from high to low in relation to the project timeline that exceeds out into the future. First off, starting at the high in the upper left-hand corner, the project uncertainty is highest at the beginning of the project because you really don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know if you're going to finish the project or not. This is also where stakeholders have the most influence and where the project has the most risk. It's said that the project has the most risk at the beginning because you don't know what's going to happen in the future, so uncertainty is high, therefore risk is high. As we move further into the future, our risks begin to diminish, the uncertainty of finishing the project begins to diminish, and also the overall risk of the project begins to go away because we're getting more and more things accomplished in our project. Now, the curve that we see going from low up to the cost of change basically tells us that the more that we go into the project, the more that we accomplish in the project, the more expensive changes will be in our project life cycle. Now, another term that some PMs get stumped on is the product life cycle. The product life cycle is just what it talks about. It's the life of the product. So the last product phase is the retirement of the product. So for example, if you were manufacturing cars, you might have a car that you call I'll just say it's the 123 XYZ car. And each year you create a new model of that car. Well, at some point you might decide that that 123 XYZ car needs to go away. So you retire that model of the car, you retire that product of the car, and it's considered that that product's life cycle has ended. Now, project life cycles, what your exam will focus on, you know you're dealing with a project life cycle because you're doing something like you're moving, or you're adding, or you're changing, or you could even be deleting. And those are characteristics of a project life cycle. We do have relationships between phases in our project. There's a sequential relationship to the work that you do the foundation, before you do the framing, before you do the interior, before you do the landscaping. So in construction, it's very easy to see the idea of sequential relationships. So we have to prepare the site, then pour the concrete, then do the framing, and then ultimately we have our home ready to go. Now, another type of relationship, though, are overlapping relationships. So in larger construction projects, this is typical. Maybe you've driven by a stadium where you see part of the stadium, like in this photo, all of the stands are in place on one half of it, but in the other half of the stadium they're still doing the construction, where the phases overlap one another. And then we also have iterative relationships. You may have a project that deals with a sequence of events that happen over and over and over. Sometimes in chemistry you have that. You have these iterative relationships. Another maybe more practical example is if you were to open up 100 stores, 100 retail stores, that you might do the same activities over and over and over in each store. So you have iterative relationships.